Hi, how are you? My name is Pete, and this video is mainly for the beginners, where I'm gonna explain to you how to tame dinos in ARK Ascended. Now, I'm not gonna get into too much details because that way the video will be very long, and I did that mistake before. The video was very long and no one watched it. It was very sad and I don't want to talk about it. So anyway, you can group the dinos into 4 ways of taming. So you have knockout tame, which involves you to knock out the dino and then feed it. You have a passive tame, which you don't knock out the dino, you'll just approach it and feed it its favorite food. You have what I call unique tames, which basically there's a lot of tames that they have their own unique way of taming, which I'm just gonna give you an example, but we're not gonna get into every single dino how you're supposed to tame it. And lastly, the 4th category, which is a new category for ARK Ascended, it's the babies. Not every dino has a wild baby, although some do, and it makes the taming process much easier. So how do you know which method the dino requires in order to get tamed? Well, the best way to find out is to go to ARK Wikipedia page, which is linked down below. And here, let's say you want to know how to tame Trike, the Triceratops. So you just type it in the search box and you have all the information about this dino. So you can see that it's herbivore, you can also see its temperament, which in case you don't know what docile means, it means that the docile creature will only attack if provoked, otherwise it will ignore you. So it's always good to know, especially as a new player, whether it's actually safe to approach the dino or it isn't. And if you scroll down a little bit more, you can see that the taming method is knockout, which means that it requires you to knock out the dino before you can feed it its favorite food. And in this case, it tells you that it prefers the simple kibble. Now, if you don't know how to make kibble, I made a video about it and I will link it down in the description. It's done in ARK Survival Evolved, however, nothing has changed since, so it's perfectly viable even for the ARK Ascended. Now, if you don't have access to kibble, you can scroll down to find out what other food Trike prefers. Now, this Wikipedia page also applies to ARK Survival Evolved, so some of the information will be not true, which is why I suggest when it comes to food, to use a different page. And that page is Dododex, which also has a mobile version both for iOS and Android devices. And it's linked down in the description. Now on Dododex, if we type in Triceratops, as you can see, you have pretty simple menu, which perfectly illustrates what kind of food you need to feed the dino in order to tame it. So you can see that its favorite food is simple kibble, which we already know from the ARK Wikipedia page. And the next best thing is crops. So crops are things like carrots, potatoes, lemons, and corn. Now, if you don't have access to any of those, the next best thing is mejoberries. Now, what's unique about the Dododex, it will actually show you how much food you need in order to tame the particular dino. So in case of level 140 Triceratops, if you have taming speed 1, and you play on single player settings, you will need 6 simple kibbles in order to tame it. However, if you're gonna use the crops or mejoberries, then you need respectively 60 or 80 pieces in order to tame the Trike. Also, Dododex will roughly show you on your settings how long the taming process will take. So as you can see, if you use simple kibble with 140 level, 1 taming speed, single player settings, it's gonna take roughly about 7 minutes and 12 seconds. Now, it doesn't always gonna be spot on, but it will give you a rough idea how long will it take. And if you change the level of the dino to level 60, as you can see, it only needs 3 simple kibbles and it will tame within 3 minutes and 36 seconds using the kibble. However, if you just have the mejoberry, you're gonna need 40 mejoberries and it will take 18 minutes to tame the Triceratops. So now that you know what to feed the dino, how do you knock it out? Well, the game actually gives you a lot of tools to do that, and we're just gonna quickly go over them all. So the first knockout tool that you unlock at level 5, and it's a slingshot. A slingshot requires ammo, and that ammo is just a normal stone. The next tool that you unlock, it's wooden club. You unlock it at level 8, which is a very primitive tool. However, it's good enough for something small like Dodo. The next tool you unlock, it's the boomerang, which is unlocked at level 9, and it's actually really good up until mid-sized dinos. You just need to remember to not use the melee attack, just use the throwing attack on the boomerang, otherwise you inflict a very little torpor. Now the next thing you unlock is the bow, which you unlock at level 10. However, in order to tame with it, you need trunk arrows, which are unlocked at level 21. Now this is going to be your first proper tool for taming dinos, which will last you all the way until you unlock access to the metal. Then at level 25 you unlock the crossbow, which is gonna be with you probably for the majority of your gameplay until you reach the end game. And the crossbow again requires the trunk arrow, which is unlocked at level 21. Now the crossbow also works underwater, which is very important when you're trying to tame the megalodon, for example. I'm also gonna mention the compound bow, which you unlock at level 79. However, the compound bow is actually not very good. If we scroll down on Dododex on level 60 Triceratops, you can see that the compound bow requires you 10 shots, whereas the normal bow requires you 13 shots to tame level 60 Triceratops. However, the crossbow, which is unlocked way earlier, only requires 8 shots. So unless you're lucky enough to get the compound bow with more than 100% damage, which in case you don't know how to get those, you get those from those drops like this. So you might get, I don't know, 300% compound bow, then it might make sense, but it's always good to check it on Dododex, whether it's actually worth your time. Also, since we're on that page, I want to direct your attention to the bottom numbers, which indicate the head multipliers. So in case of Triceratops, it's actually bad to shoot it in the head because it has the most amount of armor. So if we look at the crossbow, we need 8 shots on the body to knock out the level 60 Triceratops. However, if you keep shooting it in the head, you actually require 49 shots. Now, that's in the case of Triceratops, but in the case, for example, of a raptor will be exactly opposite. It's much more beneficial to shoot the raptor in the head. So then we have a long neck rifle, which is gonna be your end game taming tool. Long neck rifle you unlock at level 35. However, in order to tame with it, you need the tranquilizer darts, which you unlock at level 62. And at the very end game, you're gonna unlock the better version of those darts, which are called shocking tranquilizer darts, and they are unlocked at level 96. And the long neck rifle is probably the best and the most used tool to knock out the dinos. And lastly, we'll also have the harpoon launcher, which is unlocked at level 43. However, in order to tame with it, you need to unlock the tranquilizer spare bolt, which you unlock at level 72. Now the harpoon launcher generally is designed to tame dinos underwater, however you can still use it on land. And lastly we have electric pot, which is unlocked at level 95, and it's just absolutely useless, just never use it. As you can see, you can't even knock out the dodo. Also, very important thing, when you knock out the dino, make sure you don't shoot it too much. So whenever the dino is about to fall, you can see that it's actually falling, or it did fall already. You don't want to hit it, otherwise you will lose the taming effectiveness, which directly impacts the amount of bonus levels you will get from taming the dino. That also applies to all the wild dinos. Make sure that your dino that you just knocked out doesn't get attacked by any other dino around it. Now, after knocking out the dino, the most important thing to pay attention to is its torpidity. As you can see, there's that bar at the very bottom that says torpidity, and it constantly goes down. Now, it varies from dino to dino. Some dinos lose it very quickly, some dinos use it very slowly. But once the torpidity reaches 0, the dino will wake up. So it's very important to stop it from reaching 0. And to do that, you can use the narcotics. And what you do, you just put the narcotics in its inventory and you force feed it. And as you can see, the torpidity starts raising back up again. Now, if for whatever reason you don't have access to narcotics, you can also use narco berries, or the more powerful version of narcotics, which is biotoxin, which you can get by killing those cnidarias and just harvesting them. Just keep in mind that both biotoxin and narco berries have a spoiling time, which means that after a certain amount of time, they will just disappear, unlike the narcotics. So once the dino is knocked out and you have its torpidity under control, you can feed him its favorite food. And here's where I would recommend, especially for the beginner players, awesome spyglass mode, which, as you can see, if you aim it at the dino, not only it'll show you if the dino is tameable by knockout or by passive tame, but it will also show you all kinds of food that it needs, and it predicts how much of each food you will need. So as you can see in the case of the Dododex, its favorite food is regular kibble, which at level 150 Dododex, it will need 7 of those. However, the next best thing, which is base veggie, which as we said before, it's any kind of vegetables like carrots or potatoes, it needs 67 of them. And the way you feed the dino, you don't force feed the food, you just put it in its inventory, and the dino will eat its favorite food on its own. Now, different dinos have different speed of eating, and of course the faster it eats and the better the food you give him, the quicker it will tame. But again, don't forget you can check all that information on Dododex website. Also, it's worth mentioning that whenever you tame the dino automatically gets marked on your HUD, so you can actually see its taming progress no matter how far away from it you are. And if for whatever reason you can't see it, you just go to your menu, you go to the tracking menu, you go to filter, scroll down to tame in progress, and then you just mark the dino that you're interested in, and as you can see, it will get marked again. And once the taming bar goes all the way to the end, you're officially a new owner of the new dino. So here the game asks you to name the dino. You don't have to do it, you can just skip that or name it later. But either way, the dino is yours. So let's talk about passive tame. So as you can see again, the awesome spyglass is really awesome, and it shows me that Mesopithecus actually requires the passive tame, and again it shows me all the food the dino prefers. So in order to tame the dino passively, most of the time you're gonna need the ghillie suit. Now, it's not required in all cases, again, check with Wikipedia. However, the dinos will be less likely to notice you, and some of the dinos like Mesopithecus in this example will actually run away. If it will notice you, it will just get spooked. And then you will have to wait until you will be able to approach it again. Now, once you know what food the dino prefers, you need to put it on the last slot on your hotbar, and you need to approach it. Now, try to approach it from the back, because that usually works best, and you're less likely to get noticed by the dino. And you're looking for that prompt that you see on the screen right now, feed basic kibble to tame. So that's what you do, you just feed it. Once you feed it, you will get another prompt that says wait until it's hungry again. So now you have to keep on checking on him whether he is hungry again, and if he is, you will get another prompt to feed him. Again, if you use the awesome spyglass mode, the awesome spyglass mode will actually tell you whenever the dino is ready to feed from far away, so you don't actually need to approach it and risk spooking it away. Now, the good thing about passive tames is you generally don't need any kind of narcotics, because you actually don't knock out the dino. Now, when it comes to unique tames, it's actually pretty hard to cover them all. So the best way for me to help you with that is to, again, refer you to the Wikipedia page. And for example, let's see we want to tame Equus. So you get the normal information that we mentioned before, but if you scroll all the way down, you will always see in all the dinos taming strategy, which will go over step by step what exactly it is that you need to do in order to tame the dino. Of course, there is always YouTube. If you're looking for a specific dino, how to tame it, you can just search for it on YouTube, and I'm sure you will find loads of videos about it. But in general, the unique tames are, well, unique, and you generally need to check before you start taming one, as in the case of that particular Equus. As you can see, I'm just riding around and feeding him every so often, and that's his way of taming. Now, the last option to tame the wild dino is by utilizing the new wild babies mechanic. Sometimes you will come across the dinos that have a baby. Not always the baby is visible, however, if the adult has that little icon above its name, that means that it has a baby, and it's always a good idea before you kill the adult to find the baby first. So once you know where the baby is, keep an eye on it, and then try to kill the adult without hurting the baby. And once the adult is dead, all you gotta do is just approach the dino, and as you can see, you will get that little prompt message, imprint on juvenile triceratops level 50, and all you gotta do is just click that button, and the dino is yours. Now, of course, you're gonna have to feed it. in order for it to grow up. However, those wild babies usually grow up much faster than the normal babies. Now lastly, I'm gonna mention the traps. As I said before, I'm not gonna get into much details here. However, without building anything, there is a few traps in the game, like bola or bear traps. And in order to find out whether that certain dino is affected by it, the best place to go is, you guessed it, Wikipedia. So if you scroll down on the trike page here a little bit, you can see that the trike is immobilized by chain bola, large bear trap, plant species white trap, and a net projectile. Now the net projectile is not in the game yet, it was in ARK Survival Evolved, but the rest of them are available in ARK Ascended. But if you go to Raptor Wikipedia page, you can see that it also is affected by bola. Now the bola is very good, especially for the beginner players, and it's unlocked at level 9. And as a beginner, I recommend you should always have few of them on your hotbar, because every time you use one on the dino that is affected by it, it will stop it from moving for 30 seconds. So then you can either run away or just start taming the dino. Now, I hope you got enough information to be able to tame the dino on your own now. And if you did enjoy the video, please leave a like and consider subscribing. And if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.